Simple paint schemes like this one can be really cool, especially if we use a simple bit of lettering to give them some extra character and life. My name is Hero Song, and today I want to make a simple paint scheme look awesome by adding a little bit of flavor with lettering. Most military uniforms and vehicles have some sort of markings or letterings and stuff on them to denote platoons, battalions, and other important info. We can apply some lettering to these models to both enhance their look, but also stay consistent with the idea of this being a somewhat realistic looking army. So how do we go about adding lettering to these things? Well, first things first, we need to come up with a plan. It's really important that we know what we're going to put on these guys before we do it for real. Since what I plan to put on the shoulder is pretty simple, I'm going to use a little trick here rather than doing a whole test model. I'm going to moisten my brush that I plan to use for this lettering, and then I'm going to practice applying the lettering with no paint on the brush, just water. It's a little hard to see on the camera, but the water will leave a super subtle streak on the model and then immediately disappear as it dries. I use this to give myself a subtle, disappearing visual of what it will look like when I actually do this for real. Alright, we've got our plan, and now we need to do the next most important thing. Pick a color. I'm going to use one of the most insanely good covering paints in the world that I've ever seen, which is Pro Acryl's Bold Titanium White. This stuff is just absurdly good for coverage. I'm going to get some white paint onto my wet palette and grab a little bit with an extremely thin and sharp brush. We want to pick up enough paint to get good coverage, but not pick up so much that we have globs hanging onto the brush. This should be about the same consistency with water that we would use to do an edge highlight, maybe just a little bit thicker. Alright, now we want to use super light pressure and make sure our strokes stay nice and thin. I'm going to start with the middle letter and work my way out so that I make sure the spacing between letters is correct and even. Light pressure, tons of focus, nice and smooth. We want to be extremely deliberate and delicate here. We really want to let the brush do most of the work here, and we should return to our palette frequently to load the brush so that we always have fresh, moist paint on it. Focus, focus, and success. All right, looking good. Let's do a quick before and after. Here's before, and here's after. I personally think that the squad with the lettering is just so much more visually interesting than the one without. It gives just a little bit of pop and spice that really enhances the paint job. All right, now I want to paint a full word on something a little bit bigger. And once again, we want to start with practice. So let's use another planning trick here, and rather than just using the water method, I want to use one of the most unloved but secretly useful things in the world, old sprues. You can chop up some old sprue, give it a prime and a base coat of your color, and voila, we've got a perfect plastic canvas for testing. My Acadian army is apparently very proud of the fact that they're actually in the army, so they really wanted to label all of their machines with the word army. So that's what I'm practicing here, and that's what I plan to add to my Sentinel. Cool, it's looking good, so time to copy this over to the actual Sentinel. Same thing as before, mostly thin paint, light pressure, same size across, lots of focus, and success? Mostly? Ah shoot, I made a small mistake here on the Y, which is totally fine and expected. We can clean it up with a little bit of our undercoat color that's applied the same way that we just applied the lettering. Light pressure, making sure we're nice and precise, and cover up those bleed over areas. And there we have it! Something else that looks really interesting that's built off of a really simple paint scheme. I personally think that this small amount of effort improved the scheme so much, and it's really fun to see a realistic and simple paint scheme end up looking awesome. Thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. I have a whole bunch of other painting videos on my channel, so feel free to check those out, and make sure to check back soon for more content like this. Once again, my name is Hero Song, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!